Welcome, Asia. Thank you for joining us. A friend from church. You like to work with the little kiddos, which is just, it takes a real saint to be able to do that. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Where are you from?
I am actually from Little Rock, Arkansas. A lot of people don't know. I was born and raised in Granite Mountain. No, not the new Granite Mountain that you see. That's all nice and pretty.
The Granite Mountain Apartments, you're saying, not you.
No, it was the predating that it was the project's Granite Mountain that I was born and raised in. And so it was my mother. I was afforded the opportunity to go to Booker Arts Magnet because my mom stood in line like all the other parents. Because back then you couldn't just sign your kid up and just hope they get in. She had to actually sign me up for magnet schools. And then while all the other kids from the community were going to the zone school, I got to attend a public school, which was super cool. And the start of all the drama, Asia, that you know. So from there, my mom was a single mom of 3 kids. I'm the oldest. I'm the only girl. I have 2 younger brothers. We went from there to then moving to where she got on housing. And we were able to live right behind Arkansas Children's Hospital. Still afforded to go to the same school because we were public transportation. And so throughout my childhood, I got to attend really great schools. I know Little Rock School District may not have the best light on them right now, but I'm still 100% behind them because I am a product of Little Rock School District and the magnet programs. So we went from there to my mom ended up getting married actually to my bonus dad, who is the most amazing man in the world. I am completely biased in that comment, but
that's a term I've never heard, by the way. Bonus dad.
Bonus dad, you never heard that term. Okay, so I don't like saying stepdad or stepmom because to me it sounds evil. It sounds like somebody's stepping on you, and I always think about Cinderella and her stepmom was evil. So I was like, I'm blessed that not only do I have a dad that helped my mom make me, and I'm so thankful for him too. Shout out to that dad. But God loved me so much, he gave me a bonus dad.
I like that.
So I say my bonus dad. And I always have, you know, when I'm referring to him, I just say my dad. But I've never said stepdad because I think it sounds evil. And again, you know, I work with little kids. So, you know, I always go back to Cinderella. Stepmom. She was mean. So then, you know, they bought a house off 12th Street. So we went from Granite Mountain to living behind Children's Hospital on Schiller Street. My mom was on housing. To my mom and dad getting married. And then we went to live off 12th Street. So 12th Street in the 90s. You know, banging on Little Rock. Yep. Gangs were definitely real. So I've always had that thought that although I've come from all these different environments that weren't the best in Little Rock, Arkansas, my mom has always told us you live in a house that's located on 10th Street, which happens to be located in the neighborhood off of 12th Street where there are gangs. I just was like, that always felt really, really concrete for me. That it doesn't matter where you come from, where you are, even where you are right now. What matters is how you carry yourself in a place of where you are, your being, not your surroundings. So, you know, I kind of had to me, I didn't even know we were broke until I got out of high school. Like, I didn't, because, you know, I went to every field trip. I got to try out for drill team and do all the things and all the drama, you know, things I went to and being student director of the musical and getting to go out of town and Bentonville and do all these competitions. Never had a second thought that my dad's working 3 jobs, my mom's a housewife. We probably don't have the money to do all that. They just always provided. They always allowed us to be children. I've never went in and the lights were off, or there was no water. There was food. May not have been the food I wanted to eat that particular day, but there was always food. You know, I've had a pretty stable childhood, and I credit to my parents. They did such a great, all 3 of them. They did such, and then when my dad got remarried, I had a bonus mom. They did such a great job of having a 2-family household. So not every child that's born in a projects or lived in the hood is automatically gonna go and do drugs or automatically gonna go and, you know, will hit your daughter or something. That's not necessarily how it works.
Well, I think it's really kind of cool because all 3 of those communities are neighborhoods that we have worked in for years. And like you said, the neighborhood does not have to define you.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting for me to hear, because so much of the time I get caught up in these kids and look what they're in, and and all of that. So.
And like you said, you guys work in the neighborhood, and one of the things that we've started downtown Little Rock is something that happened for me in Granite Mountain, and that's where we bus children in. When we stayed in Granite Mountain, that's how I started my first church. They would come and bring their church van out, and my mom and her kids and other families and their kids get on, and we got the opportunity to go to church. And it was because of programs like that came out and saw that, hey, these people or this person, they want to do great. How can we help and do that? And so it's how I got started in church. And I've literally been in church my entire life, like born and raised in church. My bonus dad is an associate pastor, so I'm a church girl to the core.
You're also a mom.
I am a mom. I'm a mom of a 13 and 2 months, soon to be 14-year-old girl who is very outspoken and bold, and I have no idea where she gets that from, Drew.
Oh.
It's a shocker, these kids. But she's amazing. She's super cool. Man, she was the biggest blessing ever. Because as much as I've been in church my whole life, around that time at 20 and 21, I was grown, right? So I knew everything. All the things. No. And having her really kind of got me back on track. Because I was like, hey, this is literally not my life. This life I'm living now, this is for her. And so, I have one kiddo.
And so let's kind of jump back, because I think one of the things that Little Rock is known for is the HBO documentary that you mentioned earlier, Banging in the Rock, the late 80s, early 90s, gang culture in Little Rock, more murders per capita in Little Rock than Compton or any other city in the United States. What was it kind of like for you in that community at that time?
Real and raw. I know that's not a very good explanation. I'll dig a little deeper. It made my mom teach us different things that maybe other people that don't look like me my age had to learn. I remember very vividly growing up, my brothers, she would tell them, if there were 2 of them, you guys can have 2 more friends walk with you, and that's it. If you have a coat, it needs to be buttoned up to the top. Don't wear your hood, wear this hat that I provide. Things like that she's, always taught them. Even when my brother would start driving, when he was starting to learn how to drive, she would tell him, only 2 people in the car, you and your brother, nobody else. More than 4 is a problem. You don't walk in groups. If it's more than 4 of y'all, split the street. Different things like that I don't think anybody else probably had to hear. Or even for me, it was, your name is not beep beep. If somebody's blowing a horn, I don't care if it's the police, you keep walking till you get to your destination. Even from, which is probably the weirdest thing, and I had to end up teaching this to my own child, don't walk with your hands in your pocket. In a store, you hold on to the basket. You don't walk with your hands in your pocket. Because when they see you, they say, little black kid steal. Don't walk with your hands in your pocket. To even this personality that I have that you know me as now, I've always been big and bold. One thing she would tell me, and I don't think that, I know that she wasn't trying to kill my character or my personality, but it was, hey, let them see you first, then hear you. Because if they hear you before they see you, they've already categorized you as being a loudmouth, know nothing. Just different things like that. Growing up during that time where everything was and even now where stereotypes can kind of get you in trouble, that you have to live beyond the stereotype. Like, you have to make sure you don't do a certain thing so people won't think that you're a certain thing. So growing up during that time, there was a lot of things. It was more so for my brothers than it was for me, because I was a bookworm. I like to read, and I kind of stayed at home. I didn't really go out. But for them, even when it came to like going to people's houses, I can tell you 2 people's house that I actually spent the night over growing up. Because my mom was like, no, they can come over here. Unfortunately, we had a house full of boys all the time, but it was, no, they can come over here. We set off 10th Street. My dad got a goal, and it used to be in the backyard, but as the guys started coming over and the house started getting extremely full and smelling not so fresh, she ended up putting the goal on the street. And she would, I remember this, oh my gosh, I hope she gets to see this because she's going to be tickled. She would invite all these kids, they can come. And then, the big igloo coolers with the orange with the white top, she'd fill it full of Kool-Aid, and then she'd make...
What color Kool-Aid?
Red.
Okay.
That's the same, sure. It's the flavor and the color, red. You know that. red Kool-Aid, and then she would either make a big old pot of hot dogs, and no, you didn't get buns. You got a piece of sandwich. Or she make a big old pot of soup or something and just make these sandwiches for all these kids coming over. And I was like, look, this is not a recreation center. But the closest one was all the way down 12th Street, which was Pinnock Boys Club, or the other one was all the way off Woodrow, which was Billy Mitchell. So there wasn't one close enough, and she didn't believe in us walking in packs, because during that time, that wasn't a good idea.
Now, I love what you said, a pot full of hot dogs, because my kids now want a microwave hot dog, and my mama only boiled our hot dogs growing up.
Only boiled.
And so I think that's a very important thing we have in common. Our mama's treated us right when it came to how she cooked the hot dogs. So,
see, you had a good one. We had a good one. What is this microwave thing? Zapping hot dogs? This is crazy. No, you don't zap the hot dogs. So yeah, for me, growing up during that time, I was very family oriented. My mom was very family oriented, and although all the craziness was happening, yes, I heard gunshots. But it's not like the movies. It's not like you hear a gunshot and everybody breaks and hit the floor. And you can hear it right next door, and it sounds like a cannon. But you just know if you weren't, although a bullet doesn't have a name on it, 9 times out of 10, if you weren't a part of the craziness that was going on, it wasn't going to be in your area. And I just remember, like, even when my dad became associate minister, he started driving the church van, and there were several houses on our block that would get broken into all the time. And they never broke into our house. Our house has never been broken into. My mom has lived there since I was, 7, 8, maybe 9 years old.
So she's still in that same house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. They have never been broken into. And I just remember this one guy from when they were playing basketball, and he was definitely a banker. Let's be honest. You know the ones that's selling and dealing. He sold drugs too. So one guy was like, yeah, whatever he was saying, and he was like, no, not Miss Field's house. We don't touch our house. I'm just like, Mom got that much respect. And she didn't have a problem with going over and telling people, hey, once you hit that stop sign on Peyton, and until you get to that stop sign on Abigail, put your pants up. Now, what you do past those stop signs is not my business. But in between those 2 stop signs, put your pants up. And I was just like, man, my mom was a superhero. Like, I was like, Mom, I don't know if you're supposed to tell him, he got a gun back there. She said, well, he gonna shoot me anyhow. But I have the right to say what I want to see when I'm sitting on my porch. So that was my growing. That was how it was for me. And I understand that with all the things that's going on in the world now, and like you mentioned about the banging on Little Rock, media, and that made those people, circumstances of how they grew up and what they went through in life. But that's not everybody's. And I think that's what's being missed. Even when it came to things that's being shared on social media. And I just have to say this because it's something that was hard. It was a heart-wrenching thing for me with everything that's going on. Somebody reached out to me and was like, well, why aren't you sharing this? Or why aren't you saying this? Or why aren't you saying that? And I responded with, well, what I posted is what's true for me. Mm-hmm. If people are going to ask me exactly what they can do to help, because I'm all about solutions, they can teach their children to love. That's what's important to me. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't speak for the entire Black race. I never will.
No.
I'm just me. But for me, and from what I can see has helped me to be who I am now, it's one thing my mom taught me. And that's, you'll never look into the face of someone that God doesn't love. Ever.
No. It's very clear.
It's very clear. And so for me, you can start right now educating yourself if that's what you so choose to do, or teaching your children to just love.
Now, growing up in the area that you grew up, and a lot of people, they hear things or whatever, still, there's a little market right up there on 12th Street that is still the market where the most police calls are made in the entire city.
Pickback.
Exactly. But growing up with having seen those things and experienced those things, there's a lot of talk right now of people and trauma.
Yeah.
How do you think that all of those things has shaped you for the better or for the worse or whatever. And even though you say that you were, I don't want to use the word sheltered because I don't think that's the proper term, but your mom.
Oh, I was sheltered.
but
I was sheltered.
Your mom looked out for you guys very well. But you still saw and experienced, and I'm sure you had friends that things happened to and all that. Talk to me a little bit about how those things then have kind of shaped you now.
Mental health. I believe you can have Jesus and a therapist too. And yeah, there are passion. I mean, I'm here for
2 therapists, 3 therapists.
I mean 10, because it's in His Word. If you ain't tore it out yours, it does say if you sick, you need to go see. I mean, it's in there. Old Testament, if you're looking for it. But it's in there. Trauma's real, no matter if it's growing up in that area or even some things that I may have went through with molestation. It's real. How you get, I'm not even gonna say get past it, how you deal with and allow it to shape you, because you'll never forget it, for sure. It was there, it happened, it's reality. You seek help. You seek help on how to get beyond it. And it's building. If you never get to a point you get help for any of those things, whether it be finding your Lord and Savior or walking through different freedoms or seeing a therapist, because we all need to see a therapist. I mean, they're here, they're trained for a reason. It builds. And we know anything about building, the foundation starts to shift after a while and then you crumble. So yeah, traumas are real. And I got to see them. I got to even experience some of them. But you gotta work on that mental health. You have to. Like, there are too many avenues where it's free, where you just call a number. And with that type of trauma, along with being in a pandemic, along with you may have lost your job, along with what happened to George Floyd or Ahmaud Arbery, and all the things that are building, because it's not new. No. Let's be honest, it's not new. It's just building, and it's right there, and it's not being dealt with. And so your mental health is causing the rest of your body and actions and everything to be off track. And now you went through therapy, and I just use this because even if it works for a little kid, it should possibly work for an adult as well. Maybe not. We'll see.
I don't know. We're kind of stuck in our ways. So.
We'll see. But one of the things her therapist taught her and me, which I don't know if you know, he taught me something too, is think of life as a trifecta. There are 3 things. There's your thoughts, there's your emotions, and your actions. And there's only one thing you can change that would affect the other 2. So you can change your emotions, but if your thoughts still jacked up and your actions still ain't right, kind of don't matter. Okay, so you can change your actions. You can start giving a little bit more, but if you're still overly emotional and your thoughts are still jacked up, it doesn't matter. The only thing that changes the other 2 are your thoughts. And that's why we go to therapy. And that's how he got her to just to get over something small as someone says that she's different and she likes sports over liking tutus and that makes her a tomboy. He's like, well, that's what they think, but what do you think? Because that's what matters. I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. I'm going to use it as an adult. The trifecta, I'm going to change my thoughts. That's the only thing that's going to make the other 2
and that's
make any
biblical
difference.
Too. I mean, the Bible is very clear on the thoughts dictate your future. Your thoughts dictate the words come out of your mouth. The words that come out of your mouth are an overflowing of your thoughts. I mean, all of these things, the Bible is very clear on taking those things captive. So I think that's really a powerful statement.
And I was like, hey, this lines up with 2 or 3 things. Okay. So then there's 3 there, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. I receive it. So, it's one of those amazing things. Like, so with trauma, just to circle back around to it, yeah, I think you're going to have to, that person or those people or me or you definitely have to take a hold of those thoughts and work on that mental to get past that trauma. Or, again, I'm going to correct. I'm not going to say get past, to allow that trauma to shape you differently. Because although it was happening around me, I had my mom continually pouring different thoughts, continually shaping me and going to church. And where others have not been afforded that type of opportunity to have a parent to do that, start now with working on your thoughts. It's the only thing that's going to shape the other two things, your emotions and your feelings. It's your thoughts. And we know your heart and your mind are kind of cohesive when it comes to thinking. So,
one thing you mentioned earlier that struck home with me, because my oldest daughter was actually molested very young in age, and we are parents that do the same thing. There's not going to be any spending the night. There's not going to be any of these things. And I don't know if I'd be different if it was a boy, but with my daughters, we have a certain way that we kind of prepare them based upon our life history and what my oldest daughter's been through. My youngest daughter who's 9, just thinks, how can y'all do this to me? Y'all are totally different and all that. What are some things you as a black mama of a black daughter do like that would maybe be something that I've not been exposed to or looked at in that same way?
One of the things is it's easy to see a duck when it wobbles and it quacks, right? You know it's a duck. Mm-hmm. It's much, much harder when the duck is disguised and it never makes a sound. It may wobble a little bit, but it doesn't necessarily quack. And in this day and age, a lot of times what my daughter is having to deal with is the subtle racism. That stings more than just flat out saying, you black, whatever.
Yeah, give some examples.
For example, after the about 2 weeks after the issue or the thing that happened with George Floyd when he passed away, Anaya had talked to a friend that they were supposed to go to 4-H camp together. You know, they both were on these essays to get accepted in. If they didn't, we could have paid the money, but they wanted the scholarship. You know, these kids now.
Proud mama.
On my own. But they wrote in the essays, and this particular friend happens to be white. Again, she got a horse band, all types of students there. And so they wrote in, well, of course, due to the pandemic, nobody's going to camp like that, not with that many kids that close together. So when I told Anaya, she reached out to her friend and she said, hey, what are you going to do this summer since we can't go to camp? What are you doing? And, a little girl said, well, me and my mom said we're probably going to go out of town. Me and my mom and dad are probably going to go out of town. And I said, oh, cool. Well, while you're out of town, you want my phone number, you can call me. We're talking through Instagram. If you want my phone number, you can call me. We can keep in touch. I have an iPhone now, so I can FaceTime. And the little girl said, my mom said right now, I can't be friends with you. And so, first, Naya came to me and she said, well, I'm not going to say the child's name. Can't be friends with me right now. And I said, well, okay, that's her mother's decision. We have to respect different household rules. Well, that bothered her. So without asking me, she went from, well, why can't you be my friend right now? It's because your mom was scared of the coronavirus, because she got to have faith. Okay, this is my kid, okay? And the little girl responds and says, no. My mom said I can't be friends with anyone that's, what did she say? My mom said I can't be friends with anyone who, if we took a picture together, our picture would not come out looking the same. And so Naya goes, oh, it's my red hair. Again, she is still not getting it. Like, it's not.
And that's the beauty of kids.
That is, and she's fairly smart, Drew. Like, she's not a 13-year-old that's behind. Like, she was already on the 8th grade level last year. So I'm just like, oh, the poor kid just was not getting it. When I went back and read through all the messages, she just was not getting it. And I was, oh, it's my red hair. I'm probably going to dye it back before school because my mom said I can't keep it red. So will you tell your mom that? And the little girl said, no, my mom said I just can't talk to you because you're black. Well, and she comes to me and she's like, not the end part is not what got her. What got her was, why didn't she know that that's what the little girl was saying? Why didn't I get that? Why didn't I get it from the first response? And it made me think then, so as much as I teach my child to love, and as much as I teach her about God, now I have to teach her about subtle racism. I have to teach her that people aren't gonna accept you just based off the fact that you were born this skin tone. Period. I think one of the things I was telling another friend who asked me this, how could that situation gone differently? Honestly, if the mom had just called me, if you have a question about something, if she just called me, hey, I'm having a little issue with everything that's going on. How do I know that my child's going to be safe? And I would tell her then, see, there lies the problem. There lies the problem. What automatically makes you think your child is unsafe because my child is brown? What gives you that feeling? Mm-hmm. Let's dig deeper there. What makes you double think that it's possible that your child wouldn't be safe at my home because of the protests or the rioting? What makes you think I'm protesting or rioting? The thought that automatically, because one group of people, and the majority of that group of people may do this, and it's honestly not even the majority.
No.
I'm going to be honest. May do this, that every single other person that looks that way is going to do that particular thing.
So that's just crazy to me. Now, my daughter, I've got a daughter that's in high school at Quest, but my youngest daughter, who's 9, is at East End. And she grew up around the Dream Center and grew up around where, in most cases, she was the minority. Mm-hmm. And that was, part of that was purposeful on my behalf, because this is the community that I've just fallen in love with. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't been because of the color of skin, but it's just the overall, just everything there is to do with the nature of, especially where the Little Rock Dream Center is. I spent so many years asking those families, hey, what can we do for you? Mm-hmm. Hey, we're here, all these things. And it felt more natural than going to a church where we lived on the other side of town.
Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoy just the truthfulness in so many of the kids downtown. But that's just crazy to me that in this time and age, mm-hmm. that, number one, the mother probably didn't have the guts to talk to you. I'll be honest.
And I can see that.
But on the flip side of that we look out there that everything that's going on, and we say, my kid's not safe with your kid because of the color of their skin, mm-hmm. and so therefore the solution is, I'm not going to have my kid around yours, versus, hey, we've got a problem here in society, we need to fix it.
Yeah. And I think, we have two very different things going on where I think I'm kind of in the middle. One is go on home, tell all the truth and do all the things. And the other is let's do nothing and it'll pass over. And I'm just like, okay, so doing all the things, I get. Did God tell you to do all these things though? Like, are you just doing all these things because all the things is going on? In which case, after the thunder's gone, are you going to continue to do all the things, right? Doing nothing doesn't help.
Right.
Okay? When I say doing nothing, I'm not saying that I want you to just now start a blog on why you did nothing. No. What part of your life and what you're doing in your everyday walk can you help with the solution? This mom, you just taught your child, mm-hmm. which before she had zero problems with my child. Zero. They were friends. They clicked up. They decided to go to this 4-H camp together, mainly because they got to ride a horse, whatever. But they clicked up for this reason. But you just either intentionally or unintentionally taught your child to have biases. That's what I'm talking about when I say do something. Be part of the solution. Part of the solution is, this is going on in the world. This is hard. This is a hard conversation. But let me reach out to this mom and say, hey, are you protesting in your home? Or, hey, I'm uncomfortable because, and I could be really wrong or whatever. Or, hey, I was going to tell my child not to do the thing because all the things that's going on. Where do you stand on this? Mm-hmm. And then maybe not saying that just where do you stand on this particular issue?
It's the same discussion if my child was going over to any mom's house or any other kids. Hey, I just want to know that we're very protective. Do y'all drink a lot in your house? Or
Exactly.
those are the kind of conversations that 90% of the parents I know are going to ask.
They're going to have those
They're
questions.
concerned about, okay, is there a creepy uncle that lives with you? I mean, is there drugs? Is there alcohol? Is there something like that? That the discussion's going to be made.
I mean, but even when I
versus-
was growing up to even now, when I asked about now you're going places, my mom would ask, do they go to church on Sunday?
Mhm.
Well, what church do they go to? How long they been going to that church? You know, that was important to her.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a totally different religion, oh, okay, so how long they been Jewish? Are they the Jewish that are totally against Christians? You know, she wanted to know everything. And then I still couldn't go visit until she sat down and visited with them. So it's the same thing, but not been allowing your child to have just a simple conversation with another child with everything that's going on. That's where I say, you know, you two are a part of the problem.
Yeah. And I mean, and I haven't heard the story firsthand. I know that you shared it with some of the team at the church of recently, just you were out hiking or walking or whatever you want to call it.
Drew said hiking.
Yeah, I have to be careful with that because it's like my daughter will say, well, I'm going to go on a jog with my dad. We're not jogging. Walking at best. But you were just out and about, just enjoying the outdoors, and some things happened. Do you mind telling that story?
No, I don't mind at all. I work out because, you know, I'm pleasantly round and I like to keep it tucked into the pleasantly roundness that it is. Nothing going astray. So I work out from time to time. I really like to walk across the Broadway Bridge, and I always, not sometimes, always do this, listening to gospel music because I need Jesus so I can make it back home. I need to have it in my soul, and it's always 100% on blast because I need it. Otherwise, I'm not gonna do it. It's not gonna work. And so I was just taking my same route that I always take, which happens to be the bike route for over in North Little Rock. And I do that because I don't have a partner that walks with me. I'm single. You know, I'm a single mom. I don't have a friend that walks with me, but every now and again, two people on a bike will pass me. So possibly if they come back through and I'm knocked out, somebody may do CPR and get me back together. So that's why I take that particular route, because eventually somebody's gonna, especially early in the morning on a Sunday, somebody's gonna pass me. And as I was taking that route, two guys on a bike rolled by, and cop pulled over. He and another lady get out the car, and he said, "Hey, excuse me," and I said, "Yes." And he said, "I tried to flag you down back there." I said, he said, "And you just brushed me off." And I said, "I probably was worshiping because I was listening to Tasha Cobbs, and sometimes the hands get to going." He did not find it very funny, but it was in fact true. That's what I was doing. I was listening to Tasha. She brings a difference out of you. But he was like, "Well, do you have your ID?" And I said, "Well, no." He said, "Well, what are you doing out here?" I said, "I'm exercising." I said, "Well, why did you stop me?" He said, "Because it didn't look like you were exercising." I said, "Oh." As I have a band on my head. Of course, they were leopard print biking shorts, but, you know, you got to be stylish when you're working out, okay?
Exactly. You got to at least look like you know what you're doing.
Okay. You know, and I had an oversized shirt on and some sneakers. And I asked the question, I said, "Well, do they look like they're working out?" And he said, "Well, they're on a bike." I said, "Oh, okay." He said, "Well, do you mind going home so I can get your identification? Do you live around here?" And I said, "Yes." "Well, do you mind going home to get your identification?" I said, "Okay." And he asked me to get in the back of the car. First time ever being in the back of a cop car at 35. And I didn't even do anything wrong. I just worked out. And so I get back home and I give him my ID. He said, "Okay, be careful. Someone got hurt in the trail a couple weeks ago." "Thank you." But it wasn't the point that I feel like it was a trying to help me thing. And after that situation has been resolved in other ways, I'm not going to go into detail because it has been resolved, but it wasn't the issue of for my safety. It was I can intimidate you because I know I can. I can make you do something because I know I can because I have this badge on. And that's the subtle type of racism that's every day that I deal with. And if you ask, and I would say you ask 10 black people, it's not the outright landish racist people that we fear. We know they're racist. They walk around with it. It's like they got it on their chest.
The guy with the white robe, easy to know what's going on.
We know it, okay? It's the ones that we work with every day or we do life with every day that kind of sneaks up on us. Now, the ones that are and I will say this, I want to make sure I say this. There are people who are just unlearned.
True.
I'm okay with that. If you say something, I say, hey, that wasn't cool. That made me feel away. And you go, oh, I didn't think about it. I can see that now. I apologize. I'm not talking about those people you do life with that may say something that's subtle that they don't realize, okay? Because if you from the Hicks, maybe you don't know you're not supposed to say that, okay? That's not good. But I'm talking about the ones that are subtle, the sprinkle of subtleness of the racism that's more hardening. That hurts more for me. I'm a heart person. For me, that hurts more. Someone that I love and I talk to, or someone that I work with every single day, that is sending an email to me that says, I understand that the pandemic is going around and everything that's happened with the recent murders, but make sure you get your job done on time. Or the ones who say, just, Asia, they kill each other. You know what I'm saying? Not you, the other ones. The other ones, you can't say that. I'm this one and the other ones. You cannot say that. It's not cool. Or he was like, you know what? I heard somebody tell me, you know what, Asia? If all of Afro-Americans, which I'm just like people and all the technical, I'm black, okay? But if all of the Afro-Americans were like you, just, able to just like be cool and calm all the time, then it would be cool. I'm just like, oh, so if everybody in the world had the same personality, then you would be great? You can't say that. People are allowed to have different emotions and different opinions about different things. So it's not the outright racism that's really a bother. I mean, it's a bother. Yes, we want to clear it all up.
Yes,
but that's not the part I think that really, and I'm not going to say everybody, but that's not the part that really hurts me or kind of is like a knife stab and twist. The part that really hurts me are the ones that I do life with every day. It's like, go, now that this has happened, I want you to now go to the soup kitchen and serve every Saturday because that's how you fix this. No, if you weren't going to the soup kitchen before because you can't cook at home, I don't want you to go to the soup kitchen now, okay? Leave you and your lunchable opening self at your house. Don't come down here trying to feed nobody and you wasn't doing it before. And I guess that's why I always tell people, and I have to quote Bronson on this because I'm not going to say it was my favorite message he's ever did, but it is the one that is most profound, and I repeat him a lot, is check your heart. Check your heart. What is God asking you to do? Before you go to that, check your heart. What your heart say about this? If God's telling you, okay, now you know these things, this is what I want you to do going forward. And if you don't know of things to do, we got the Dream Center. We got Fitz. He has things you can do. Pull up things to do in Little Rock and African American community. I'm telling you, just Google it. Things will come up.
Well,
There's so many different
it's
things.
just as easy as just walking out your front door and picking every house that's within eyeshot, knocking on the door and just saying, hello, I'm your neighbor. I live down there. I wanted to meet you. I think there's so much of this that my wife and I feel really bad about because we live in a neighborhood that, there's walkers everywhere. And we could tell you the names of one of our neighbors. And there's dozens of them. As a population, we don't want to know people.
No.
We don't want to get out there and strike up relationships because it's one more thing in our lives or whatever. But I think that's one of the things that we miss out on. I was on a conference call and they were talking about in the book of Revelation, John's talking about every language, every skin color, everyone's up there. And these were your neighbors here on earth and they're your neighbors in heaven. And it's as simple as getting to know people. And that's why we wanted to start having these conversations, because I think one of the things that has been an advantage to me are I have a lot of relationships with black families that know me and know I've been coming I've been in their neighborhood for almost 11 years now,
Yes.
knocking on the doors, serving, doing what I say I'm going to do, being consistent and all that, that they trust me enough to be honest with me.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that we as white people, we don't really have relationships with blacks, or if we do, we say they're a relationship, but it's like Facebook friends type
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah.
Oh, I work with a black guy, and so therefore I know him.
Yeah.
And it's just different.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things, these conversations that we really want to challenge people. Get to know each other.
Yeah.
Because I know you from church, and we see each other every Sunday, and we give each other little quips back and forth and those kind of things. But this is probably the first time you and I have actually sat down and had a conversation about your life. You don't need to hear my life; it's probably out there somewhere on social, but it's not that interesting.
Wikipedia.
But asking those questions, and so I thank you for taking the time to just be here and just share with us and be open and honest, because I think what I want to see, what you talked about, I'm scared to death that it's getting hotter and the protests are going to die down because it's miserable being out there. But the conversation doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And that we don't let this one pass us by like so many other times. Because you and I both grew up watching Rodney King get pulled out of a truck.
Yeah.
And it got violent and it got crazy.
And
then it just went under the rug.
Yeah.
And I think it's time that we start talking about some of these things and we start being honest. And so thank you so very much for taking an hour out of your day just to come and share with us. And hopefully people will hear this and realize that we can do better.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.